beautiful people. How are you doing? Welcome on this new live episode of Stand Out from the Crowd. So we are a little bit behind schedule. We were challenged actually by some technical issues, but we all figured it out. So we're here and very happy to be back for a new live episode. If you are new here, welcome. My name is Darine BenAmara. I'm the founder and CEO of The Smart Woman, and I help high-achieving women getting promoted to leadership roles without compromising themselves. And what we do here inside the Stand Out from the Crowd show, we showcase the stories, of people who made it. And, today we have a very special guest. And actually, I was intrigued by her and her story. She is a very smart woman, talented woman, and how can I say that? She stood out in an industry that is unconventional, that is saturated, and she, through her personal brand and consistency, and she's of course going to share her tips with us today, she find her place, and as a professional woman in the hemp, cannabis. I have been trying to remember this name, but I can't. But she will talk about it in a few minutes. So, help me welcome our guest, Gina. And in the meantime, let's start by the beginning. I think I'm a little bit confused today. Let us know where you are coming from. Where are you tuning in from? We have a beautiful international community. So let us know where you are coming from. Introduce yourself, use the chat box, use the chat to network, and, eventually find your next opportunity. So without further ado, let's welcome Gina Epps. Hello, madam.
How you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you for your patience.
No, tech happens. I mean, all this technology is good because we are all connected and we can, have conversations with people all over the world. But sometimes, it plays us. But this is part of the game. We are here. That's the most important. So thank you so much. And I'm very glad actually to be able to have this live conversation with you, because I think I have a lot of questions, and I think the audience also may have quite a few questions because of the industry you evolve in. That can be controversial, that can be, and there is still debates, around it. In North America, it has been legalized. In other countries, not yet. So that's your story here is very interesting, and how, from being rejected and all of this, you were able, to build your credibility and to make up space for you in a saturated industry. But before we move forward, let's welcome our viewers today. We have Vezat Khan. Looking forward to today's episode. Hi, Vezat. Thank you. We have another LinkedIn users looking forward to it. Please don't keep your profile private, otherwise we don't know who you are and eventually how we could connect with you. And Louis Carter says hello, Midwest USA, their hemp sister. Wonderful. So Gina, can you please introduce yourself and tell us what is it that you do exactly?
Yes. And real quick, Lois is my partner. That's my business partner and best friend of 40 plus years. So we've known each other our entire life. Yes.
Beautiful.
And collectively, the bottom line is education for us. That is our heart. That is our soul. That is the missing piece to our industry. Because as you were saying, there is so much misinformation and propaganda that surrounds this plant. I mean, it's mind-boggling, the facts compared to what we've been told our entire life. So we'll go back a couple decades. I graduated college. I was about to be a high school teacher. I was 22 going on 23. I was teaching health and physical education and coaching basketball. So fitness, health, the body, that was my life. That's what I did. But I bought into the BS, Darine. I believed cannabis was an evil plant that you were going to be addicted to, and you were going to get high and get crazy. And I believed everything that Dare wanted us to believe. Unfortunately, that year, I ended up suddenly losing my father with a heart attack that we had never saw coming. It kind of came out of nowhere. I was only 23 years old, and I turned to my doctor for guidance. And they prescribed me Xanax and Valium, and I lost myself, Darine. Like, I completely lost myself. I was teaching, but I was in this cloud. I was not myself. I was like a shell of who I was. I was just pharmaceuticals. I don't know if, maybe some people that are listening are familiar with pharmaceuticals. It puts you in a cloud sometimes. That's the best way to describe it. And I just, a few months passed, and I'm living in this cloud, trying to just get by and deal with life. And Thanksgiving rolls around, and my cousins are all over, and we're all crying, and they're begging me to try cannabis. They're begging me to try this plant because I'm telling them how the pharmaceuticals are destroying me. I mean, they could see it. I wouldn't even have to tell them. They could see it. I was a different person. So I finally do it, Darine. At 23 years old, the first time in my entire life, I try this scary, scary plant, and I can't even express what it did for me immediately. I felt calm. I felt balanced. I felt even. I wasn't shaking. I didn't have anxiety. I didn't have that terrible, heavy depression that had been like just weighing on my shoulders. And I didn't feel high. I didn't feel this crazy feeling that everyone scared me about. Like it literally evened out my body. So I take that into consideration. How do you not? So I learned from that and start slowly getting cannabis in my life. And within 2 months, I'm completely pharmaceutical free. I was addicted to 2 pharmaceuticals, and used cannabis to get them out of my body. And I've never turned back. So I'm 24 years pharmaceutical free from something that was supposed to help me. Yeah, just by using a plant.
So that's interesting. So because actually you were very young to be like, pharmaceutical, and so I have never experienced it by the grace of God, but I have been watching and seeing the effect of it on other people.
Sure.
And so actually you were very young to experience this kind of trauma, emotional trauma, physical trauma, and all of this.
Right.
So what was the first form of the cannabis that you tried? Because in my mind, when you talk about cannabis, I see you smoking.
Sure. And back then, that's what it was. They rolled a cannabis joint, and I took a puff, like one, because I was terrified. And I felt okay. And I took another one, and that was it for that day. Those 2 tiny little puffs changed my entire body immediately. Now, back then, I didn't understand the science. I didn't know what I know today. I just knew how I felt. I knew what it was doing for me physically, mentally, emotionally. I was a changed person. Now, you're still dealing with death and trauma and stress. These terrible things are all still there. But I'm finding a way to cope and to deal and to know that I'm going to be okay. And that was the huge, epiphany for me. Yeah. And I talked to the doctor about it. I mean, this wasn't something I hid. I was proud of it. I was better, and 23 years ago, that was really frowned upon. So he was like, whoa, don't tell me that. And I was like, I need to tell you that. It's helping me. You know what I mean? Why would you not want to know that? Yeah. So, it was my life. And fast forward to 2013. Now I've been teaching 15 years. I'm teaching health full time. I have a classroom full of sophomores that I'm about to teach the drug unit to, and now I know everything I've learned for 2 decades about this plant now. And the science is there, and the studies are there, and it's all backed up, so it's a different ball game. But I still didn't get crazy. I'm a health teacher in high school. So we talked about nutrition. We had just finished our nutrition unit. So we talk about hemp seeds, hemp protein, hemp powder, stuff we can eat to make ourselves healthier, and why that's good for us and why our bodies need it. And the administration lost their minds. Like I was in a world of trouble.
Yes, I can imagine, because up to not so long ago, it was categorized as drug. Right. And so I can imagine, the high school, like not wanting to have a professor teaching drug from that perspective. right?
Right.
And we're gonna get into the shift, the other perspective that you are bringing to this topic, and how actually, because there was a big buzz a few years ago when they decided to legalize it, and a lot of people jumped into the trend, and then
Sure.
of course, as in every business, there is the ups, the downs, but I particularly admire and have learned a lot, like from watching your content on LinkedIn,
Thank you.
your consistency, your focus on the health side of this plant, and you literally, by being consistent and staying focused on teaching people from a health perspective, and Louis says here, a health, not high, like
Right.
you made up like some space for yourself in the market, and you stood up. So in my mind, like, when it's about this topic, I just think of you, because I don't know anyone else actually. But
Thank you.
so before, we have Menal, who says, hello, Menal. Robert Berry, who says, hi, Gina and Darine. Hello, Robert. Thank you for tuning in. Imran Shafi, who says, can I join you? Like, if you have any questions, any comments, please leave it in the comment, and we will be happy to answer them.
Yes.
And Lois, who says again, we have come a long way from smoking. Exactly.
Right.
And that's the part that most people don't know. And I'm going to be transparent. I don't know any other way. I have never
Sure.
tried, but in my mind, this is the only way that I know, how to use. I've seen people using this plant. So, but
Sure.
since I've been watching your content, ladies, I know a little bit better now. And that's why I'm very
Yeah.
excited to have this conversation with you. So, when did you understand, like, outside, beyond your personal experience, how did you understand, or where did you see that, okay, there was a potential to get into business,
Mm.
educational business? So do you sell as well, or do you focus on educational stuff?
Well, that's a great question. It's been a crazy journey this past like 7, 8 years. So 2013, I actually ended up being forced to resign. Long story short, they set me up with the police. I got arrested. It was a huge fiasco. All
Oh,
charges dropped.
wow.
Yeah, there was nothing. I mean, it was a witch hunt, but I lost my job. So that fast forwarded me into entrepreneurship real quick. Like, you know what I mean? I'm not going back to that. I need a platform. I started building my network. I started product development, really small scale, hemp oil soaps, body care, using hemp, but not cannabinoids, no CBD, no THC, nothing like that. Just skincare, body care, because that was easier to educate on. It wasn't going in your mouth. So it was easier for people to comprehend, and then that 2014, actually, my husband and I packed up our family, moved to Washington State, and we were legal caregivers. We grew cannabis. We took care of countless sick people. I mean, just incredible experience. So now we are really delved into the medical side of this plant, not just what I thought I knew. Like, we really learned this plant, and for cancer, and for, serious disease, and serious GI issues, and debilitating illness that was getting help naturally. You can't unsee that. I worked with those people. I saw it help them. I saw people come out of hospice, Darine. You know what I mean? You can't unknow that stuff. So I already had a fire in me, and it ignited it like I could have never dreamed. So now I'm full force trying to get Lois to quit her hotel management job, and let's do this. So by 2015, I got her. We started a small business. We're doing body care. We're doing that. We bring CBD to the Midwest because I brought it from Washington. Nobody knew it existed. So now this is when education really began. And that was all for free. We built our network. We had huge following on Facebook. It all began on Facebook, and then the censorship went through the roof. And that's honestly what landed me over to LinkedIn. I was playing in LinkedIn. I wasn't doing much in LinkedIn because the cannabis. I was scared. I didn't want, business people to look at. Yeah, now I'm the pothead. I'm the doper. I'm the druggie. I didn't want any of those labels. I wanted you to see me and know this is also my life. You know what I mean? So it unfolded very naturally on LinkedIn.
Okay, and this is what we are going to talk about now. And I see a comment from John Clayton, I believe, is this you based on Robert Berry comment. So it's amazing how fearful people become when they don't understand something,
Right.
especially conventional establishments that react without thought and consideration. And that's very true. That's a
Very
great
true.
comment, because as you were sharing your story with us, I was like, it's true, but not only with this plant, but with everything
Yeah.
that is unconventional, or that is not that we are not used to any other
Right.
options, that what the system offers us is considered as drug, or whatever as very negative.
Right.
Whatever the qualificative may be, it's very negative, right? When actually there is like alternative medicine to the chemicals that we know in the Western world, right? So, I really see it as an alternative, giving people the choice to to decide if they want to be, if they want to take the regular route, or maybe something that is more natural,
Right.
because I see it as like natural medicine. Maybe I'm wrong, you're gonna tell me. um Crazy, right? Fear of the unknown makes people do crazy crap.
Right.
Exactly, exactly. And Robert has a question for you. Why do you think so many are afraid? Yes,
Oh,
let's
great
debunk
question.
all the myth before we move to how to stand out on LinkedIn when you work in an unconventional industry. But let's debunk all the myths, right? That's a great question. Thank you,
Yeah,
Robert.
that is a great question. And I would go back to even using myself as an example. I bought into the propaganda. And I think a lot of people did, going way back to the Dare days, and before that, Reefer Madness. I mean, it was pounded into our heads that this was a terrible, scary, addictive drug. You would lose your family, lose your job, end up on the streets. I mean, at every worst case scenario that you could fathom from an actual addict, throw cocaine or heroin in the mix, there's an addiction for you, or alcohol, but they treated this plant like it was as scary and dangerous as all these other things, but don't tell you about alcohol that's actually legal and will do those things. But this plant that has all these therapeutic medicinal effects, they turned into the devil, like they do with everything. If it's good for you, it's going to be illegal at some point. We were told dandelions needed weed spray. We need to eat them, but we weren't told that. You know what I mean? So this is never ending. So yeah, I mean, that's a great question. People are afraid because of lack of education and because what we were spoon fed our entire life, and it's all lies. It's all lies.
But I'm going to be the devil's advocate here.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it was a propaganda, but not so much, in the sense that we believe in what we see, and perception is reality. And
Sure.
when I think myself, I'm gonna tell my example about people using cannabis. For me, I see them like smoking and getting high. And this
Mm-hmm.
is, up to now, this is the only image that I
Right.
have from people using this plant, right? So, as you
Right.
said, the lack of education, of course, and it's for everything is the same thing. The lack of education, the lack of awareness push people to be fearful as opposed to be
Right.
curious and educate themselves, right? To know
Right.
more, to know better. But then when you look at it, and the only image that you have is people getting high because they are using this plant, then it's hard to think otherwise, or to see what could be the benefit beyond this image that we all have.
Well, and I would compare that's where we can use a comparison to alcohol. Like either, you at the end of the night have a glass of wine and relax, which is comparable to having a few puffs and relax, or you go to the bar and you get nuts and you have 20 shots and you're out of your mind and you know what I mean? So I think it's the same with almost anything. But you smoke too much cannabis, you're going to sleep. You're not going to the bar, you're not losing your mind, you're not fighting. You know what I mean? So that's where it's just so different. And if you're open to it, I'd like to talk about different forms, because like you said, smoking is inhalation. You can smoke, you can vape, or you could dab, but that's going to give you the immediate relief, and not everybody wants to smoke. But the best way to get cannabis in our body is to ingest it. You want it in a concentrated oil, and then you're ingesting it, and then you're getting the 100% of the effects of the plant, not just 20% because you burned off 80 because you lit it on fire. You know what I mean? And that's the difference. So when you ingest the plant, now it's working in your whole body. It's grabbing onto the receptors that are already in our body, waiting for this plant. You know what I mean? Our bodies are made with an endocannabinoid system. No one talks about that. Doctors aren't taught about this system, but it's a master regulator, and nobody knows it exists. You know what I mean? So I know we can't talk a week about this, but you know what I mean?
Yes,
It's
definitely.
never ending.
And we have more comments here.
Good.
Society thinks it's modern, where it's not. Actually, we are not, unfortunately. Lois says we have to get better at providing people that have chronic illness with long-term solutions when disease cannot be cured, and focus on root causes. I agree 100% with
Me
you,
too.
Lois. There is too much propaganda, too many political and economic agenda.
Right.
That's true too.
Yep.
Robert says, what about the munchies?
Well, good question. Munchies are due to terpenes in very specific strains. So that doesn't always happen either. And a huge another misconception. So depending on the strain you're smoking or ingesting, it would actually suppress appetite depending on what you are doing. But again, no one's going to tell right. No one's going to tell you could lose weight on cannabis. They want you to think you're going to sit on the couch and gain 100 pounds. Like it's not true, but it's what we were told.
Oh, wow. That's so
Right.
interesting. I'm learning. I knew I would learn so much. And Natalie says, this is interesting. Just hopped on. Welcome,
Hi.
Natalie. Thank you for joining us live today. So now let's get into the nitty gritty of, starting to communicate about what you do on LinkedIn, professional platform, regulated platform,
Right.
B2B, B2C, and you're like, okay, you know what? It's working on Facebook for me. And Facebook is kind of more open, I want to say, it's more user friendly. You can talk about everything. You can create groups. You can have your own, bubble, create your own bubble on Facebook. But on LinkedIn is slightly different due to the professional aspect of the platform.
Right.
So, and you mentioned that briefly. You said, I wanted to start using LinkedIn to leverage LinkedIn, but I didn't want people to to judge me, and
Right.
to tag me as the hemp lady or the drug addict or whatever,
Right.
which was legitimate actually.
Sure.
So how did you overcome those fears in the first place, and how did you position yourself so people would understand that your sole purpose is to educate on health and wellness, and not, being a crazy lady talking about cannabis on LinkedIn? So how did you do that?
I dipped my toes in. I did it very slowly. I made sure people knew me first. So I started at the beginning of the year with videos. That was very new for me. Literally January 1st this year was the first video I ever did in my life. So
this year, 2021. Oh my gosh, congratulations.
Thank you. So that was huge for me. So once I got that out of my system and got a little more comfortable, I knew I could start breaking in some videos with hemp. But I had to let people either like me or not like me first. I had to kind of weed through people and decide, so I'm getting a nice following, and people they're liking it, and I'm positive, and they like the inspiration and the motivation, and they know what I do, but I don't talk about it much. So then I start just really dipping my toes slowly into the nutritional aspect of the plant, because I figured that's the best way to talk to the everyday person. Everyone eats. Everyone, I'm hoping people are conscious about what they eat, so I figured that's the nice step forward on LinkedIn. So I started literally hemp seeds, and I did a couple posts on what they are, what they do for our body, why they need them. And Darine, the response was incredible, like incredible. So I was like, oh my God, like, here it is. We could do this. Like LinkedIn is not against it. They just, we have to find the avenue to teach them about this plant. And it doesn't include getting high. It can if you want to, but it doesn't have to, So that was the beginning.
That was the beginning. And how cool was that? So Robert says, so talking about munchies, Robert says, nice, I didn't know that. Roberto Brutus, who's joining us, says, all people are smoking cannabis in Ontario, Canada. Politically, although someone never buys a piece, a small gun used to win more seats in Ottawa. That can be political too. Can be political too. But today, that's not the purpose of conversation. So, but thank you, Roberto, for your comment. And everyone loves you, Gina. Like,
It's
yes,
so
everyone
sweet.
loves you, Gina. So
That's so
that's how
sweet.
you got started. Like first, like January 1st of this year, 2020,
Yes.
you
Yeah.
start posting videos. You start, communicating about seeds, right? Hemp seeds.
Right.
And this is how, and surprisingly, I can say surprisingly, you received a very positive response from people.
Yes, yes. And more so even in the back end. Like, my posts would get a lot of views, they get some shares, they get a lot of comments, but the DMs after I put up a post, maybe someone didn't want to comment on the post, but they'd be in my inbox wanting to know, like, oh my God, where can I get these? I had no idea. Can my kids use them? Can my family, and it was just, it opened up this gateway that I'm like glowing. I'm so happy. It opened up this gateway where people wanted to learn, and I could teach them, and they were open to that. So, you know what I mean? That's indescribable. Like, I can't even, no money can give me that feeling. Like, that's incredible.
Wow. And so you find your sweet spot, basically positioning yourself from, a nutrition standpoint. And then how did it evolve? Now we are like 8 months into 2021. You have built quite a big community actually on LinkedIn.
Yeah, it's getting really
A very active community. So how did you evolve? So what was the pathway, to, okay, I don't want to focus only on nutrition, because
right,
there is much more to that.
right.
And how did you evolve on the platform in terms of content, in terms of strategy?
Yeah, great question. In my mind, the next logical step was industrial hemp, because that's going to get the business people's attention. That's going to get the finance people's attention. That's where the real money is. Like, I know people talk about medicine and recreation, but industrial hemp, we're talking about, another option for plastic, another option for paper, another option for building material.
Oh,
Talking about
wow.
changing the planet 3. You know what I mean? So once I start bringing that into LinkedIn, now my posts are viral like crazy. Like, people are like, what the hell? They had no idea. No idea. You know what I mean? That we could stop cutting down trees, or at least cut that in half or a quarter, because hemp grows 100 times faster. I mean, a tree takes 20 years, hemp's 4 months. You know what I mean? It's a no-brainer. But it's that competition not everyone's ready for. The lumber company is not going to be excited about hemp. The cotton people are not excited about hemp. There's a lot of industry there that's not going to be as welcoming.
Oh, of course, and you are fighting, and you're gonna fight against, big boys, like big industries. But it doesn't mean that you cannot do it, and I know you can do it.
Right.
And we have more and more comment like coming in. People are so interested. I never buy this
I love
plant,
it.
but whenever I open my window in summer, I cannot stop breathing it. Same here. I'm based in Toronto, and actually I have a new neighbor. Clearly he smokes, right? And so
Yeah.
every time we open the window, we can smell it.
Right.
I am planning to move out. These things should be treating as cigarettes, where one should smoke or not. I'm not against it.
No, that's a fair point. Not everyone wants smoke around them, whether it's cigarette smoke or cannabis smoke. Like, my mom's that way. She knows I've used this plant for 2.5 decades, but she's like, no, I don't want smoke around me. You know what I mean? Like, I understand that. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, we have another comment from Lois who says the plant with 30K uses, so many conversation openers.
Right.
Like, really? 30K uses out of this?
That's not an exaggeration. That's not an exaggeration.
Oh, wow.
And it's arguably up to 50,000, but like 25 to 30,000 are confirmed. Because it's the fiber. It's the fiber of the plant that you can do so many things with, and all anyone wants to talk about is smoking this plant. Like, you know what I mean? But like she's saying, there's 30,000 other reasons we need to talk about this plant.
See, I had no idea. Edigo says, how you know that your post is actually value to others?
Oh, good question. I go by the metrics. If I get a lot of views, and if I get a lot of comments or reactions, or if my views or reactions are down, but I have a lot of DMs, I know they're not as comfortable maybe in public talking about this or reacting to it, but they're still very interested. I get that a lot when I put up a cannabis or hemp post. Some will get real good traction. Some are a little shaky, but then on the ones that are shaky, my DMs are up.
Okay. So now, business wise. So you said you started with nutrition, so it was more like educational. So when it's educational, it's more on a B2C basis, right? But you
Right,
mentioned the potential, the amazing potential for the B2B and going like up to industrial aspect of using this plant.
right.
So and I know a lot of people, there was this hype, and and this craziness around, okay, it's being legalized and we can do this and we can do that. Here in Toronto you will see a store like at every street corner. This is
Sure.
crazy,
Yeah.
but I even didn't have a clue that you could go industrial and you could do so many things out of this plant. So my question to you is now, in terms of business, since
Mhm.
it became a saturated market quite
Oh yeah.
quickly, actually,
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
how did you find your way, uh, to the top, actually, to position yourself as the go-to person, to stand out from the crowd, and to ensure that you and your business gets the credibility that you need in order to make it a sustainable business?
Right. That's a great question. And the biggest thing is staying ahead of the curve, paying attention to laws, regulations, and because that'll change daily. I mean, in our industry, it's insane. Like you really have to pay attention to what's going on.
Mhm.
That's huge. Not putting yourself in one little bubble. Like you can't be the CBD person, because CBD is one cannabinoid out of 113 in this plant. So if you have your entire business is CBD because that's the new cool thing, and then so do a million other people because it's a new cool thing, you're a dime a dozen. Then you don't exist. So staying ahead of the curve is huge. Being ready for the next new cannabinoid, because now it's D8 and then it's D10. It's all these different THCs are now coming out legally because they're extracting them from hemp. They're all being extracted from CBD. So it's almost a loophole that you can now get THC legally. Like, it's crazy. But that's happening, and that's from hemp, and that's causing another plethora of confusion, because now they don't know, am I gonna take a drug test, and am I gonna test negative now on my drug test, because now it's not just CBD. Now I do have a little of this THC. And the answer is, if you're messing with D8, you will absolutely fail a drug test. You know what I mean? So you have to be aware of that, even though it's legal and everywhere. But in a place like Toronto, I mean, you guys are completely legal. You're recreational, so that's high THC everywhere. But even in a place like Toronto, you don't have to use high THC. There's still going to be CBD options. There's still going to be oil options that you don't have to get high. I mean, that's still going to all be available. But they're not going to want to push that as much. So you got to ask some questions.
Okay. Yeah, but you don't know what you don't know, so it's hard to ask good questions.
Good point.
If you
Good
don't know,
point.
like I could go there and I would even know what to ask for or what question to ask, because I'm not educated enough
Sure.
on this topic. That's a very important aspect that you mentioned here. The regulation, like any changes, like quite often, because
Right.
people still don't master the topic. They don't know how to navigate it. So how do you see the future of this industry, and how do you see yourself like 3 years from now?
I think the future of the industry is going to be complete legalization. I think every cannabinoid, I think high THC is going to be completely federally legal everywhere, at least in, Canada and the US and Mexico and probably a lot of the surrounding countries. I don't know how long that'll take, but I'll be honest, Darine, that doesn't make me that happy. Like, I know that means more access to people, but all recreational cannabis brings is taxes like you've never seen before. A plant that you can grow in your garden for $5 is now $100 an eighth. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. So in my fantasy world, it's completely descheduled, deregulated. You can still buy it at the store, but it can also be in your garden. You can buy leaves next to your spinach, because that's how your salad should look. You know what I mean? In the real world, that's where we need to go. I don't know if we'll see that in 3 years. I mean, that could take 5 to 10, but that's going to take a lot of fighting from people that deserve that and want that and need that. They shouldn't have to go to a store to buy something they could plant in their backyard. That's okay. And that's where we need to keep fighting.
Yeah, and we have like a great comment from Lois, who says branding in absence of federal regulation is hard because of the different laws.
Right.
Exactly. Absolutely, because as I was saying in the description of this live conversation, like you have built a personal brand around your activity, and I believe you don't even have. Do you have a business brand? You don't even have a business brand yet.
Well, Gina Wellness was our first business brand. We had launched See Better Daily, was the industry's only cannabis eye drops. Like we do products too. We just don't talk about products as much because our passion is education, and products are always going to sell. Like we have a whole team of people that work with products. So Lo and I don't even push products very much, but they're available. If you need products, you're looking to wholesale or distribute or white label, we got it all. But our focus is education, and we've been working these last couple months on getting some courses together. We have a Patreon platform that's going to be launching because we've partnered with Feed My Starving Children. So now our subscriptions moving forward are going to feed babies for the month. You know what I mean? Like, so we're so proud of that stuff. And it all goes with the mission of just humanity and one love and helping to everybody. And this plant should be a part of that, but there's so much more to it, but the plant is a nice little gateway into humanity.
Yeah. So does Lois, since she's your partner, does she like experience the same kind of positive feedback, growth also on LinkedIn as a co-founder?
Yeah, but differently. Like Lo she's more of like the back end. She does all of our, the website stuff and the podcast stuff and the newsletters, and she does it all. I mean, does it all. So social media, she kind of pops in here and there for support and, to make sure, helps with the business page and that kind of stuff. But I'm more the, the face of the social media and the groups and the all that kind of stuff, like especially LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, that kind of stuff.
Okay, that's why it's good to have the right partner, so you can go and you can focus on your strengths, on your zone of genius. And I think this is clearly your zone of genius, Gina, and you have been doing an amazing job so far. And Robert, like referring to Gina, says, "Hey, the tech guru." Exactly.
That is not offensive.
The branding guru on one side and the tech guru on the other side.
Yeah, works nice.
We have been like talking for more than half an hour already. See, but I'm so happy we have had this conversation because I think it was important to debunk some myth, about this plant and what you're doing before we get into, how to stand out in an unconventional industry. And it's through regulation again, and and mastering your topic. Your topic, that's very important, and this is clearly something that you master, Gina. So what would be the last word, the last thing that you would like people to know before we hang up?
As far as cannabis?
Yeah.
Don't be afraid. And that doesn't mean go jump in and buy anything. Send me a message. Send Lois a message. Ask a question. You can message our website. Like, I don't care what your question is. Let's talk. Let's open that door. Let's get you more comfortable. And then you have all the information you need to make a better decision for your family. That's the biggest thing for us. We're not trying to tell you what to do. But once you have the information, you can make educated decisions. And then it's up to you what you do for yourself and your family. And that makes my heart sing.
Yeah, well, and actually, this is it. This is about offering people choices. It's not more. And myself, just for you to know, I have been suffering of migraines for like maybe 20 years now. And I have tried everything that you can find, like, and even at some point, the doctor wanted to give me, how we call it, like some medicines against depression, even though I wasn't depressed, but he told me that within those type of medicine there is like some molecules, like some stuff that will help with my migraines. And this is when I realized that it was too much, and I was like, I'm not gonna take this kind of medicines because I'm not depressed. And like, why would I take that? Because there is like one aspect of this medicine that eventually could help me with my migraines. And this is where I reached out to you. I was like, but does hemp can help with migraines because I
Right.
have heard a lot of things about it.
No, I
But
don't know if you saw any of my tags. We actually we did an episode and we answered your question and I tagged you and I don't know if you saw it. So when we get off of this live, I want to make sure we get you all that information.
oh, please, yes.
Yeah.
So see, people, do not hesitate to ask your questions because you never
Right.
know, and you don't know what you don't know. That's it. That's all.
Right. Right. And everything's on the table. Nothing is off limits. Let's go.
Let's go. And we'll see how to stand out in Gina's word. Be unapologetically you. Very true.
That's
Very
it.
true. And
Take us and leave us.
And that's what she's saying. We just did an episode of migraines. So people, if you have been suffering of migraines, click on the link. I'm definitely gonna watch this episode, and because I'm sure I'm going to learn a lot. Gina, thank you so much.
Could you send me your email as well? Because I want to give you the scripted version too, so you have everything you need. We can send you a couple studies. Like, let's make sure you have all the information you need.
Thank you so much. Oh, Robert says, ask better questions. Are you telling me that I don't ask good questions, Robert? Like, really?
Do you know someone who could teach us that?
Yeah. No, hold on. You want to get into an argument here? You don't like my questions, Robert?
I think she could take you.
Do you have any questions, good questions, or better questions you would ask Robert? Anyway, thank you so much for your time, Gina. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate you and all the work that you do, and I really admire you for standing out from the crowd and pushing forward something that, yes, might be unconventional, but you believe so hard and so strong in. So thank you. Keep shining.
You too.
Keep shining. And I look forward to watching this video on migraines.
Yes, absolutely. One love.
One love. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.